This week, John Strand and I interview Mike Jones, VP of Product at DomainTools. Mike leads the product management team and product marketing, UX, and business development efforts at DomainTools. He'll be on to talk about some new product announcements and how to integrate DomainTools' awesome assets with the rest of your security investments and how they can make them better. The final two segments in this show will be pre-recorded interviews Matt Alderman and I did at Black Hat and DEF CON. It'll be the conclusion of the series that we recorded at this year's Hacker Summer Camp, and we'll talk about all of the different security solutions providers in the industry that we did briefings with, compare and contrast, define some categories, and it will be a lot of fun if you're looking to wade through what is going on, what happened at Black Hat in terms of vendor announcements and who to choose for your vendor. Stay tuned for those segments, and stay tuned for all that and more on this episode of Enterprise Security Weekly. This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where we talk security vendors and aren't afraid to name names. It's Enterprise Security Weekly.
I'm a tiger. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Enterprise Security Weekly. I don't know how this is going to go because Paul's not here this week, but we're just going to give it a shot.
Even if you've got experience in security, you can benefit from going to somewhere and learning about that bug again. Wearing my tactical turtleneck just for Mr. John Strand, who is on the lines via Skype. John, welcome to the program.
I'm wearing the tactical fleece as well, Paul. This is
Excellent.
A fully, completely, and utterly tactical show.
Improve the efficiency and effectiveness of your security operations with DF Labs security orchestration, automation, and response technology. Automate threat containment, orchestrate incident response, and measure operational performance with DF Labs in-command SOAR platform. Leverage your current security resources to minimize incident resolution time, maximize analyst efficiency, increase the number of incidents handled, and reduce overall risk. In-command SOAR acts as a force multiplier, enabling your security team to do more with less. Streamline the full incident response lifecycle automation process today. Keep your cybersecurity incidents under control with DF Labs. Visit dflabs.com/Security Weekly and request to see in-command SOAR live in action. Stop attackers from domain credential theft and lateral movement with a 99% success rate by using artificial intelligence to control the attacker's perception of the environment. Javelin Networks is the world's first endpoint intrusion containment platform to protect domain networks. Javelin detects targeted attacks and breaches by obfuscating Active Directory, domain controllers, domain identities, domain credentials, and all domain resources. It only takes one compromised machine to jeopardize the entire organization. Don't be a victim. Visit javelin-networks.com and request a demo of AD Protect today. Are you worried about PCI compliance? Does your development team understand or care about security? Are you ready to face a breach of your customer's sensitive data? See the worst that can happen before it does. Black Hills Information Security can help you help management see the future. Email consulting@blackhillsinfosec.com to find out how a web application penetration test can mitigate the risk before you go live. Welcome to episode 103 of Enterprise Security Weekly for August 22nd, 2018. I'm, of course, your host, Paul Asadorian, broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island. On the lines via Skype, none other than Mr. John Strand. John, welcome.
I made it. So happy to be here. It seems so rare that I'm actually on the show, but very, very good to be back on Enterprise Security Weekly with you, Paul.
Well, you got a lot of balls juggling in the air at the current time, John.
A few. Yeah. A
few. So nice to have you, John, as always. And an announcement, we do have a webcast coming up with Javelin Networks. Make sure you go to securityweekly.com/Javelin. Register today. Myself and Joff Thayer will be talking about Active Directory security and, of course, lateral movement. And then Javelin will talk about how to get attackers to contain themselves, which is, of course, the title of the webcast happening on August 12th. Make sure you go to securityweekly.com/Javelin. Sign up today. They always have awesome information for our listeners. All righty. So kind of a weird show. We're not going to be talking about the enterprise security news, although we are going to have some segments that will air after this that will talk about what Matt and I were learning at Black Hat and DEF CON about mostly Black Hat, about security vendors and their solutions. Our interview for today, we'd like to welcome Mike Jones to the show. Mike, welcome.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm really glad to be here.
So, Mike, it sounds like you have like multiple roles at DomainTools. What is your role at DomainTools?
Yeah, I do wear multiple hats. So I lead our product management efforts for our DomainTools. I also lead our product marketing, our UX, and our business development activities as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So when you have new features coming out, you're really busy, right? Because you're managing the intake of the new features, the process handing off to development, and then the marketing and announcement of those as well.
Yes, it's a very busy place.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about the recent product enhancements that I think will kind of set the stage for today's discussion.
Sure. Well, today our customers really enjoy our products several different ways. We provide our Iris platform, which is an interactive web platform that allows customers to map connected infrastructure and help incident responders or threat hunters and people like that, network defenders, and also brand protection people and law enforcement map connected infrastructure and find different domains on the internet, and they get a lot of contextual data around them. We also offer APIs that also give you access to that data. And what we just recently announced is some brand new APIs that we've introduced called our Iris Investigate API and our Iris Enrich API. And it really brings all of our great data sources together into two very easy to use endpoints for people to get this data. In the past, we had maybe a dozen different APIs that people could use to get data from us. And now we've reduced that down to just two simple APIs, depending on the use case. The Iris Investigate API is really for like human scale type investigation, like integration with different types of platforms. And then the Iris Enrich API is really designed for large scale enrichment.
Yeah, so large scale enrichment, that's kind of interesting. So when I purchased DomainTools, what are some of the best ways we can integrate that with some of the other security solutions that we have to increase their value? That's a very open-ended question, and there's a lot of different places we can go, but
Sure.
what are some of the most popular integrations and most successful ones that you've seen?
Yeah, sure. I'd say that there's really three classes of integrations that we offer today. And it's really, like you mentioned, taking our rich data set. We have the world's broadest and deepest data set around domain ownership, DNS information. We also have a lot of great SSL certificate data and web crawl data. And so you can integrate that in really kind of three primary ways. We have the investigate use case, the orchestrate use case, and then the enrichment use case.
Let's talk about enrichment first. So, there's like so many tools on the market today that are like, we can help you find your indicators of compromise, and we can help you analyze your network traffic and your logs and your endpoint activity. And we take that all into one place, and you can go to a dashboard and say, yep, that's hacked. And that all sounds good. And there's varying degrees of that. But so how does having that information from DomainTools help in those investigations?
Sure. Well, for enrichment, we integrate into things like Splunk and also IBM QRadar. Those are two very popular platforms that we support today. And so what we can do is we can enrich all the data that's coming from all of their other security products or network devices and layer in all of our contextual data and risk scores that we have around every single domain on the internet. And so that will just help people highlight areas where maybe some things got through that other security products maybe didn't block certain sites, and we have high risk indicators around those. And so it's a great way to help find those things on your network.
That's awesome. And it's not just even the domains that you've already flagged. It's that prediction feature that's really nice too, and that especially applies to phishing as well. Because I think the major differentiator is you can associate domain names together that are bad, right, and assign a score to not just one but multiple, like, and say these are all from the same source.
Absolutely, yeah. Our threat scoring has several different dimensions to it. One is exactly what you're just talking about, which is proximity. That's one component of our threat scores, or we call it the domain risk profile, our domain risk score. And so what you can do with that is it knows basically what domains are connected together and looking at lots of different dimensions to do that connectivity. And we come up with a proximity score. So basically proximity to known evil on the internet. But we also have the predictive side, which you were also talking about. And so we score domains at the time that they're actually registered, way before they're actually ever used or seen on the internet. So this is, within minutes of when a domain is actually registered, based on many different dimensions, dozens of different things that we look at, we can create a predictive score, kind of like Minority Report, and they do pre-crime and predicting where crime might be in the future. We do the same thing from a domain perspective, and we'll dynamically create scores around our belief if it's going to be a phishing domain, a malware domain, or a spam domain.
How do you guys handle CDNs? Because that seems to be a big problem for a lot of our customers. You don't see a tremendous amount of malware using CDNs, and a lot of them, like Akamai, they tend to have a very good security team. But how do you balance that out with domains being spun up all the time, subdomains being spun up all the time, destroyed, and trying to track that as what's evil and what's not?
Sure. Well, I mean, it's part of our algorithm that we will calculate based on that. I don't have the exact details, but I know that we do handle CDN type infrastructures as well.
And it sounds like you're saving a lot of manual investigation. I know, John and I, back in the day when we would do an investigation, we'd find a domain that looks suspicious, right? And John, we asked similar questions, right? Like, well, how long has it been registered? Who owns it? What's on the website? Is there data we can glean from it? Where is it hosted? What country? What's some of the history behind it? Have there been other sites there before? Are they related? Mm-hmm. Like, you're basically answering all of those questions without someone like John or myself taking our experience and going, okay, I'm going to go investigate this domain.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. You can either do that through our Iris investigative platform or through the APIs as well. And so you can have that data fed into whatever other product you might be using.
But then if John or I want to use that data in our own process, you were talking about like a Multigo integration. So we can take the work that you've done and then go off and do even more investigations. And you've saved us time, but also allowed us to do some of that advanced research.
Yeah, this is something really cool that the new API enables, is that you can have like maybe a tier 1 SOC analyst, or maybe you guys could go off and do some research about a particular incident or a domain that you're interested in, or IP address, and go through a crafted Iris investigation, and at the end you have a kind of a result set of things that you think are very interesting. And what our new API enables is you can actually export that result set, and then take that hash that we provide, the investigative hash, and then put that through the API. And then, for example, you can just hand over the results from your interactive Iris session into Maltigo, and now you can pick up from Maltigo and start using all the other tools that Maltigo can provide, and continue your workflow.
That's really awesome. So in some of your SIM integrations, let's talk about security automation and orchestration, because this ties in very nicely. How are customers using that today in terms of, like, they've got security solutions, they've got a SOAR platform, maybe it's separate from their other solutions, and they've got DomainTools. Like, where is it in that decision tree, and how does it help them build a playbook?
Sure. Yeah. So we're in lots of different playbooks out there. The idea is that, they'll take an IOC of some type and will be part of the workflow within the playbook. And so we can provide contextual information about that domain, whether it's like location information, whether it's our risk score, which is another popular thing that they would look up. And then based on that, they can take different paths in their work, in their playbooks based on that.
And in the scoring, like, what's the feedback been on the scoring? I know, coming from a vulnerability management background, we would attach scores to things, and they were sometimes used wrong, I think. But so how is your risk scoring perceived, and what is the feedback you're getting on your customers in terms of your risk score?
It's been very well received. It's used both in our products. We also have, private labeling into other products that are out there, other security products that use our data. So it's widely used in a variety of places. And so we've gotten great feedback. We introduced the new machine learning capabilities earlier this year with the new, where we're predicting whether it's going to be spam, phishing, or malware domains. And that has also been very successful.
That's awesome.
What do you guys, for machine learning, what machine learning algorithms are you guys using?
Well, so that's something that we've crafted over several years. There's about 2 years that we spent building up the machine learning algorithms to support these different predictive models. It is human monitored. So it is a very well crafted and something that we continuously tune platform.
And so going back to the SOAR market, do you find, Mike, that people are integrating with a dedicated SOAR platform, or there's a trend where like SOAR is being integrated into some of these other platforms? Can you talk about the differences between the two, and maybe give some examples of like a company that says, yes, we do X, Y, and Z, and we allow you to do some automation response around that, versus the standalone companies like a Demisto, for example?
Sure. I would say so far, I would say the most popular use cases are with like Phantom or Demisto. Although I would say definitely the tips out there that are starting to integrate some orchestration inside their products is also starting to take flight. So we support both types of environments. It's really depending on what level of integration those different products have. But I would say just that so far what we've seen are the more popular use cases are with the more standalone types of orchestration platforms.
When customers work to do these integrations, how does it tie into the SOAR platform and use the API versus like I have to write code? Can you talk about like the differences? Like how much code would I have to write if I was doing it myself, and how easy or difficult it is to implement? And then like how does the SOAR platform help you, and how much like time does it save in writing that code?
Sure. Well, with our new APIs, I'd say it's a lot simpler now. We have a single response that you get back in JSON, so you can write some code around that, but it's a very well structured output. But with the SOAR platforms, those already have the code basically pre-written, and so you can just basically plug it in and say what variables you want to use from our platform in our response. So it does save you some time, but then you are somewhat limited as to what you can do with it. But when you use the API, you have full flexibility on what you can do.
Right. Yeah. And John, we were talking, and I like this trend. I don't know how we got on the topic, but you had pointed out that there are security experts, right, that have 15 plus years of experience working for an organization, and they're like the ninjas, and they're usually like onesie twosies in an organization, roughly. I mean, that's overstating it, but there are a lot less of those people that have that level of experience than your people on your help desk and your SOC and operations, right?
Yeah.
So like, how do you break that down, Mike? Like, how does an expert take the data that's coming from DomainTools and integrate it? How do they present it to their, I don't want to say lower level people because it sounds demeaning, but other people with less experience in security? And then how are security experts taking advantage of the more advanced APIs?
Sure. Well, I think our products support customers really of all skill sets. Although I would say we probably tilt more towards the advanced type of security user. But the idea is that you can take a single IOC, plug it into like our Iris investigative platform, and then you can start pivoting from there to find the connected infrastructure. And you could have like a tier 1 SOC analyst do that type of work and start to build out the framework of what they think are things that are related to that particular threat that you're investigating. And then, as I mentioned, you can either share that investigation. We do have collaboration features built right inside of Iris, so they could share that with like a second level analyst, or they could export, like I mentioned, through the hash function over to other products such as Maltego, the one that we just recently introduced with this new Iris API support.
That's really cool. John, more questions for Mike?
No, I'm good.
Awesome. Mike, anything else about the product announcement, or maybe some future announcements on things that you're working on at DomainTools?
Sure. Well, I mean, Maltego is the first product that we've announced with this new Iris API support, but certainly we already have a variety of integrations with other partners today using our enterprise APIs, which are kind of our older but still fully supported APIs. But we certainly want to start transitioning those over to our new Iris APIs, and that will bring a whole wealth of new information to those platforms and make those integrations even stronger. So I think over time, you'll see announcements in that space through the 3 different use cases I spoke about before: the investigate, the enrich, and the another use case. So that you'll be seeing that in the near future.
And so it sounds like there's some like behind the scenes stuff. Like there's DomainTools is in use in places that they may not advertise or you may not know. versus ones that are public. And you talk about some of the differences there, and just kind of give people like a little insight. I think you have to name who it is, but what are some of the use cases where like DomainTools is there and you may not even really know it?
Well, we have a pretty unique asset with all the domain information and DNS information that we collect. And so there are different, I can't get into details, but there are folks out there, different technologies that are in use in the internet that are widely used that leverage this data set, and they can build upon it for their own uses.
Awesome. And so if people want the documentation on the new APIs, like if there are people out there listening going, wow, I really want to use that and integrate it into my project because it's very useful. Do you have documentation and examples? Like what languages do you recommend?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's all available on our website at www.domaintools.com. We do offer Python wrappers, for example, that you can just easily start running with. So, and we have a nice integration guide that helps you with best practices on how to use it. So it's all available on our website for people to use.
Awesome. Mike, thank you very much for appearing on Enterprise Security Weekly today. And I encourage our listeners to check out the Iris tool. It's an awesome investigation tool. I think John was saying he uses it in many of his investigations, and I've used it as well. And I really, really like it. So make sure you go check it out. Thanks, Mike.
Great. Thank you, guys.
And coming up next, Matt Alderman and I will summarize several different categories in security solutions and compare and contrast. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And I will see you next time, although you'll see me, but it was recorded 2 weeks ago. I know it's kind of weird, but thank you, everyone.